The Zen goal of detached mind is viewed from a different perspective by Charlotte Jocko Beck, who teaches at the Zen Center in San Diego. In her book, Everyday Zen, she dialogues with a student. "I don't think that we ever let go of anything. I think what we do is just wear things out," she says. Now, detachment sounds good, and self-actualized people claim to be able to do it, at least to a degree. But most human beings lack the ability because they lack the awareness. Instead of detaching, they just wear things out. They get obsessed with old pain or a person, an idea or a desire, and they play it and play it and play it until they wear it out. Or they act on it. Or they make themselves crazy. Maybe you've ended a relationship or watched others end one. At some point it gets clear that both people want to part. Although they're both overwhelmed with anger and are clearly over it, they can't let go. They stay together and they talk about it and talk about it, and they beat each other up about it, and finally they wear it out to the point that they can let go. Now, instead of going through this pain, accelerate the process of detachment by realizing your thoughts are not reality. Become an observer of your thought processes and stop judging and labeling the other person. Simply let the thoughts roll through your mind as if observing a TV show, and remind yourself that the thought is the result of old programming, but it isn't you. All right, now, here are some questions and answers. Questions from readers of Master of Life Winners magazine. And the first question is, in the seminars and in print, you say there is nothing to seek and nothing to find, so look within. Please explain more. Now here's my answer. That's an abbreviated bit of Zen. Many seekers drift from one organization to another in search of enlightenment. Today some channeler has the answer, and tomorrow it may be a new guru. The more the seeker searches, the more frustrated he becomes, because he is looking outside of himself for the answers. You are a spiritual being. This means that beneath all your layers of subconscious fear programming lies an enlightened soul and total awareness. What you seek is already there. It's like digging a well. The water is already beneath you, and all you have to do is to remove the layers of dirt and rocks to access the water. You must simply remove the barrier between yourself and what you desire. Now granted, it isn't as much fun to pursue internal awareness as it is to have someone else offer you magical answers. But someone else's answers are not your answers. Meditate and read everything you can. Attend many kinds of seminars, as long as they don't want you to join anything. And decide what you need to change about yourself. Then, create your own reality using all the tools at your disposal. All right, now here's the next question. It seems to me that your path of spiritual revolution lacks love. And here's my answer. To attain true freedom, you have to free yourself from the repressive aspects of society, religion, and government, none of which want you to be free. Society wants you to wear its approved masks of dress and behavior. Religions want you to believe and contribute as they dictate. And government always seeks greater control of your life. True freedom is freedom of the self and from the self. Begin your personal revolution by freeing yourself from the past programming. Then you must decide what you want, not what your mate or boss or society or religion wants you to want. What do you want? You have a divine right to experience joy. In my seminars, I have the participants consider doing only what they enjoy in life. And that's just the beginning of the revolution. Now, in regard to your question in the aspect of lacking love, unconditional love is not a heartfelt emotional love for every single person on the planet, outwardly expressed as an I love everybody mask. The concept is fostered by cosmic foo-foos and gurus claiming such love as proof of their enlightened status. Unconditional love is the acceptance of others without judgment, blame, or expectations. That doesn't mean you stop thinking and evaluating. It means that you accept others as they are without expecting them to change and be what you want them to be. Now, I accept the cosmic foo-foos as they are. I think their lives would work better if they were more grounded. But that isn't a condition of acceptance. And unconditional love is about loving yourself first. If you can't love and accept yourself, you can't love and accept others. All right, now here's another question. You seem to advocate that everyone accept everyone else exactly the way they are. Now that just doesn't work in life. We all try to influence each other. And here's my answer. You cannot successfully force another person to change and become what you want them to be. To do so would only cause someone to repress who they are. And no one can successfully repress for long without experiencing adverse mental or physical effects. But when it comes to influencing others, we all attempt to do this all the time. Almost everything you say to other people is an effort to influence them, even if only to influence them to listen to you. Attempts to influence are only wrong when you conceal your efforts or coerce your will with threats, manipulation, or physical force. You must always leave it up to the other person to change because they want to change. All right, another question. For someone who claims that we need to rise above judgment, you seem pretty judgmental about a lot of things. How do you explain that? And here's my answer. Spiritual people so often get stuck on this concept. You need to resolve 1. Judgments based upon your expectations. 2. Judgments which result in trying to change someone else. And 3. Judgments generated by fear-based emotions. Now these judgments echo your ideas of right or wrong, your desire to control, and your fear issues. Rising above judgment doesn't mean you stop deciding what does and doesn't work for you. There are only so many hours in each day, and if you're intelligent, you will spend what time you have efficiently and pleasurably. If I said, I don't want to spend time with Ralph because I don't enjoy his company, you probably wouldn't have a problem with the statement. But if I said, Ralph is a braggart who dominates every conversation, you'd accuse me of being judgmental. But that's why I don't want to spend time with Ralph. I'm not judging him to be wrong for being a braggart, but I know it's wrong for me to spend time with him. Referring to points 1 and 2 above, I don't expect him to be anything other than what he is, and I have no desire to change him. All right, next question. In a seminar you said, what you deny to others will be denied to you. Will you better explain that, please? And here's my answer. You always experience what you deeply believe to be so. That being the case, what you feel strongly or emotionally about creates your reality. If you resent other people's success, you will be denied success. If you're disgusted by someone else's sexual enjoyment, your sexual experiences will become disgusting. If you're jealous of another's loving relationship, you will be denied an ideal relationship. The purpose of karma is to teach. In this case, to teach us not to judge. But don't misunderstand my response. I said what you feel strongly or emotionally about. To decide not to pursue monetary success because it might complicate your nice simple life is not resenting someone else's success. To decide a particular sexual practice doesn't work for you is not being disgusted by another's practice. Okay, another question. I remember a soap opera process you used to conduct in the Bushido seminars. Would you recap it? And the answer. Life is a soap opera. Everyone has a soap opera. A sad tale they repeat to everyone willing to listen. Here are a few examples. I'm underpaid and unappreciated. My mother-in-law runs my life. My husband's kids by his first wife are incorrigible. My husband is an SOB. I've got bad astrology. My Aries doesn't line up with my wife's Pisces. My wife doesn't understand me. My hemorrhoids are acting up again. And so on. Some people even broadcast their soap operas on personalized license plates such as In Debt, Loser, or Sad Sack. Everybody has a soap opera. Now when does yours get aired? What do you talk about? Who's your audience? Your mate, friends, co-workers, relatives, strangers? What is your victim story, your martyr story, your rightness story? Think about it. Boil it down to one short line. My soap opera is. Now in the seminars, after some powerful group processing, I point out that every time you repeat your soap opera, you are programming the complaint into your subconscious mind. Thus, you're giving it more power. Okay, another question. You say, what you resist, you become. Now, I don't like bigotry, and when someone uses a racial slur, I believe in speaking up and attacking it. Now, does this mean that I'll be a bigot in a future life? And my answer. Usually, I phrase the statement, what you resist out of fear, you become. In other words, if you resist gays or straights or Arabs, blacks, whites, pro-life or pro-choice women, and you can't learn to integrate such prejudice, you are expressing fear. You're here on earth to learn to let go of fear. So if you need to become what you resist in order to learn, well then you will. In regard to resisting bigotry, karmic consequences only result from negative attachment. To understand that others do not necessarily reflect your level of awareness and calmly state your position is one thing. To experience intense anger and attack, now that's your word, the racial slur, is something else. Attacking with anger is fear. You want to control the way the other person thinks, which is not your right. Okay, another question. Please clarify what you mean when you say, let anger pass through you without affecting you. I have learned that when anger is not expressed properly and effectively, it can stay trapped inside and cause future problems. I find that I've reached a point where I refuse to get angry at anything 98% of the time. When I do get angry, I feel completely fatigued afterwards. I also find that I'm misdirecting my anger toward the wrong people. I have a feeling that my mental and physical lethargy is due to not knowing how to handle this emotion. All right, now here's my answer. When you feel anger, you should express it, not repress it. But how do you express it? Screaming, threatening, and throwing things is one way. Saying, what you did really hurt me and I need to let you know, is quite another. But let's go back to basics. You feel anger because you aren't getting what you want, approval or control. Simplified, this is a matter of your beliefs or expectations being in conflict with what is. You expect the other person to be the way you want him or her to be, but that's not what is, and you suffer because of it. Can you change that person? No. So you might as well accept what is and let go of the anger. Your choice is to let go or not let go. Either way, it won't change what is. If you don't let go, you only make matters worse by mentally programming negativity, which will have to be balanced in the future. The only intelligent choice is to let go. Change has to start intellectually and work its way down to the emotional level. Next time you find yourself getting upset, say to yourself, I'm upset because my expectations are in conflict with what is. Now this will help to diffuse the anger, because you'll have to question your right to have such expectations. At the same time, express your angry feelings clearly, without emotion. In time, with practice, you will begin to allow anger to pass through you without affecting you, without repressing, because it is the most intelligent choice. Now here are some additional notes on anger. Active anger is expressed directly to the source of the problem. Passive anger is expressed by punishing someone without confronting them. Consciously unexpressed anger is withheld because we feel it's in our best interest, maybe to be polite or to avoid a confrontation, and the result is resentment. Unconsciously repressed anger is turned inward, which becomes depression. All right, another question. Would you share again what you discussed in the Whole Life Expo workshop about letting go of our attachments to bad experiences? And the answer: good things can have bad outcomes. Bad things can have good outcomes. Rather than panicking or rejoicing, wait and see. When a man won the lottery, his wife decided her share of the windfall provided the money to leave him and start anew. A corporate officer attained a major promotion and a big raise, but her new responsibilities gave her ulcers and gray hair. 12 years ago, a friend contracted writer's disease, a severe arthritis-like disease. He was in bed for a year, but the disease strengthened his immune system and he recovered. Although he has been HIV positive for 10 years, his strong immune system has protected him from any T-cell decrease or the onset of AIDS. A woman who had a car accident met her husband while recovering in the hospital. After spending most of his adult life working as an electronics specialist for a major corporation, a man lost his job when the company closed down. He moved to Lake Arrowhead, California, and started a home security alarm business. Today, he makes a lot more money and prefers his mountain lifestyle. Don't try to second-guess the universe. Things happen because they are destined to happen, to get us from here to there, so we can resolve our karma and fulfill our earthly purpose. Okay, now here's a question and an answer in one. While conducting a seminar in San Francisco, a female participant told me that she would prefer not to know anything about karma. Knowing that even my thoughts are creating karma is overwhelming, she said, and sighed. And I added, the motive, intent, and desire behind your thoughts. Even worse, she said, if I didn't know these things, my life would be easier. The incident reminded me of the story of an Eskimo hunter who asked the local missionary priest, if I did not know about God and sin, would I go to hell? No, said the priest, not if you did not know. Then why, asked the Eskimo, did you tell me? Which reminds me of another story in response to some recent letters. For those who need a cosmic sign to point the way, I love the following reported in Charlotte Jocko Beck's Everyday Zen. To avoid the rising water during a flood, a man climbed up on the roof of his house to await rescue. Now eventually a rowboat arrived, and the rescue team shouted for him to climb into the boat. No, no, God will save me, he said. I'm praying. And the water rose higher and higher until it covered the man's legs, and another rowboat happened by, and they tried to coax him into the boat. And again he said, no, no, God will save me, I'm praying, I'm praying. And when the water had risen up to the man's neck, a helicopter arrived and hovered above him, and the rescuer shouted, this is your last chance, grab the ladder. No, no, God will save me, said the man as his head slipped beneath the water and he drowned. When he got to heaven, he said to God, why didn't you try to save me? And God said, I did. I sent you 2 rowboats and a helicopter. Chapter 6. Setting Sex and Relationships Free. Your best mirrors for learning to respond to life harmoniously are your relationships with family, friends, in-laws, co-workers, and especially your lovers, because sex always generates complex issues and emotional peaks and valleys to test your awareness. The opportunities are endless, from fear-based emotions such as insecurity and petty expectations, to potentials such as trust and commitment. I want a twin flame soulmate relationship. I've heard this 1,000 times in seminars, and I've read it over and over in letters. I want a warm, loving, sexually satisfying, one-on-one relationship that allows us both to grow and evolve, the letters and the people say. And judging by the number of people expressing this goal, it is the ideal of metaphysically oriented people. The problem is, only a tiny percentage of the population experiences such a relationship. Those who find their soulmates are being karmically rewarded, I'm told. They're lucky. Well, maybe. But there's one factor common to people sharing soulmate relationships. They tend to be self-actualized. Maybe, because of their awareness, they are manifesting more successful relationships. My research shows that lovers are all experiencing a predestined soulmate relationship. Karmic companions are two people destined to form a union to confront unlearned lessons from past lives. Dharmic bond soulmates share a goal. And twin flame or counterpart soulmates have ideal relationships and are together to work on other things. To experience the twin flame ideal, maybe you have to view life from a more self-actualized perspective. It seems to be so. Wisdom erases karma, so yes, twin flame soulmates are experiencing a karmic reward, self-bestowed as a result of expanded awareness. Maybe they started out as karmic companions or dharmic bond soulmates, and went on to become more. I've already written several books about one-on-one relationships. Having established that I have not ignored the straight and normal, I intend to focus upon some radical relationship and sexual ideas. Whose model? The religious right wants us to look backward for a relationship model, a traditional value Ozzie and Harriet lifestyle that never existed. But these ultra-conservatives don't want us to look too far back in history, because we'll find many models in our pagan roots that are not acceptable today. But why aren't they acceptable? From a non-judgmental spiritual perspective, if no one is harmed, how can any combination of people sharing life and love be wrong? For those who aren't finding a standard relationship, why not consider alternatives? For those who are not comfortable with society's model, why not explore potentials that were once commonly accepted, and which I believe will be again sometime in the near future? Alternative lifestyles threaten church and state because they are freeing. This means they have the potential to become generally accepted. Now, given a choice between equally acceptable alternatives, people will usually choose freedom. So, the church-state must eliminate the counterculture alternatives, or make them unacceptable in the eyes of society. Free people can't be made to feel guilty and tithe, so the church-state loses control, which translates as loss of income that threatens the survival of the religious institution. If you have any doubt that church and state are in bed together, look at the current political climate. The religious right has helped elect politicians to protect its interests and pass laws to enforce its tenets. All right, now here are some more questions and answers from the magazine. Question: why don't you believe our spiritual goal is to repress sexually and evolve to celibacy? And my answer: celibacy is demanded by most cults and encouraged by many religions, so you think it's spiritual. These organizations know that sex is such a powerful force it cannot be successfully repressed. When followers fail to contain their sexuality, they feel guilty, which is just what the guru or priest wants. It's easier to control guilty people. When the followers continue to fail, they lose self-esteem. They accept that they are sinners, and the guru or church becomes their only hope of redemption. A very successful ploy. You incarnated to let go of fear and raise your level of awareness by interacting harmoniously with physical reality. When you reject an aspect of physical reality, sex, you are not living life fully. Until you can live a life of total involvement without experiencing fearful attachments, you'll continue to be tied to the earth. Repression is a fearful attachment we all experience. The problem with repression is it never goes away. It will always surface when you grow tired of resisting it. So, from the perspective of generating disharmonious karma, repression is worse than indulgence, as long as you are not harming anyone through your indulgence, because you eventually get tired of what you indulge in. Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh was considered the sex guru, a teacher bold enough to go against the spiritual grain and encourage people to explore their sexuality. It was also great marketing. He felt his followers would move past their sexual obsessions faster through indulgence than through repression. Then, they would be free to concentrate upon spirituality. Now, the pagan side of esoteric metaphysics teaches that to repress who you really are generates a vibrational energy that will have to be expressed, if not in this life, in the next. When sexual energy is repressed, it becomes perverted or turns to anger, which is why armies have historically used forced abstinence to channel anger onto the battlefield. Okay, next question. I despised your answer, the one I just read. The idea isn't to repress your sexual drive. The idea is to transmute sexuality into a higher pursuit. And here's my answer. Without repression, unless you're naturally asexual, it's about as likely to happen as transmuting lead into gold. All right, now here's the next question. Obviously, from the permissive sexual attitudes reflected in your writings, you don't see homosexuality or sexual transgressions as sins. I'm curious, do you see anything as sinful? And here's my answer. The root meaning of the word sin is to miss the mark. Now that takes a little of the hellfire out of the concept, doesn't it? I think you're missing the mark if you purposely hurt other human beings, mentally or physically. I think you miss the mark when you sell or trade aliveness for survival. And I think you miss the mark when you manipulate someone for selfish purposes. In regard to homosexuality, I agree with actor Paul Newman, who says, I'm a supporter of gay rights, and not a closet supporter either. From the time I was a kid, I have never been able to understand attacks on the gay community. There are so many qualities that make up a human being. By the time I get through with all the things I really admire about people, what they do with their private parts is probably so low on the list that it is irrelevant. All right, now here's a sex talk and a belief process from the Bushido training. Concepts of morality have swung like a pendulum back and forth through history. In 12th century England, to think of sex was considered a sin, even if you were married. The missionary position was the only acceptable coital position, and only for the purpose of begetting children. Now, sex was totally forbidden on Sundays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and for 40 days before Christmas or Easter. Any pleasure experienced from this regrettably necessary act of perpetuating the race was also considered a sin. Now, between 800 AD and 1000 AD in England, people experienced a much freer sexual morality. Celibacy was considered unhealthy, and extensive prostitution was supported by authorities. Public nudity was accepted at beaches, and women were free to take lovers regardless of their marital status. Men were free to seduce women of lower rank, and could seek the favors of women of equal or higher rank according to the customs of the day. Now, the Inquisition was really a move by the Christian Church to eliminate a competitive and sexually open religion, paganism. In ancient Sparta, the public nudity of both young men and women was encouraged. Young people experienced considerable sexual freedom before marriage, as celibacy was considered a crime. It was acceptable for older men to loan their wives to relatives or friends for the purpose of bearing a child if the combination might result in a superior human specimen. In Greece, homosexuality was commonly accepted, and many regarded the love between two men to be the highest form of love. Grecian women received little education, with the exception of courtesans who were well educated to better serve as companions for the men. Courtesans had more freedom than any group of women in Greek society, and were often very wealthy. There was no stigma attached to their profession, and they were received in the highest circles. Now, is it surprising that we have the sexual confusion and problems that exist today? We are old souls who have lived many lives that have programmed us with conflicting ideas of morality. As the sum total of all our previous experiences, we have innate feelings about what is right and wrong for us. Depending upon your past programming, your current sexual orientation may or may not be compatible with our current society's mores. If sex is not the most important issue in your life, it is one of the top 2 or 3. Problems come from repression in this area. You worry that maybe you're weird. You wonder if you're the only one that thinks this or does that, and this lowers self-esteem and makes sex an issue. To show just how predictable we are, I've gathered some sexual facts from 6 highly respected research studies, all published in book form. Where percentages are provided, I've averaged the percentages from all the studies. Okay, here are the percentages. 82% of women masturbate. They have or they do. 83% of men masturbate on a regular basis, married or not. 8% several times a day. 9% daily. 28% several times a week. 22% once every 2 weeks. At least 20% of all women have had a homosexual experience to orgasm. 1/3 of all men have had a homosexual experience to orgasm. Statistics indicate much higher percentages of people who would like to have a homosexual experience but do not out of fear or lack of opportunity. It is believed by many sexual researchers, from Freud and Kinsey, and more recently psychiatrist Dr. Charlotte Wolfe, that each of us is inherently bisexual. It is only our social mores that keep us from expressing who we are. Over 1/3 of all married women have had an affair, and only a small percentage of these were because of deep emotional dissatisfaction with their husband. Over 1/2 of all married men have had an affair. 1% of women have been sexually involved with an animal. Now, to put that in perspective, in a city of 1 million, that's 10,000 women. 1 out of 7 women have been raped. Now, from the researchers' reports, let's look at some of women's top 10 sexual fantasies. Sex with a man she has not previously been involved with. Group sex. Sex with more than one man at the same time. Okay, here's from the list of men's top 10 sexual fantasies. Sex with a woman he has not previously been involved with. Sex with 2 or more women at the same time. His wife or lover having sex with another man. Now these are just some current facts about what is with sex. You're not abnormal. And you're not abnormal if none of these statistics or fantasies relate to you. It's time to stop judging yourself and others. There is no such thing as right or wrong, moral or immoral. There is only what we call moral and immoral at this moment in time. If the church or society agrees to call a particular practice immoral, that doesn't make it so. It's time to get off your sexual stuckness and integrate any sexual repression that you're experiencing. Then, it's time to ask yourself, does what I do sexually work for me? Does it manifest love, health, happiness, aliveness, and allow me full self-expression? Okay, now this is a sex beliefs process from the Bushido seminar. This is a process to explore your sexual beliefs and to uncover any repressed beliefs that are not serving you. In the seminar training, this group process is conducted in an altered state of consciousness, but it can be quite effective for you as a listener to simply mentally finish the following sentences. Now, how you respond will expose your deep-seated beliefs. Listen to my voice and then finish the sentence instantly, the way you really feel. Do not consider how you should feel. And then note if your response is positive or negative, and mentally flag those sentences that generate an emotional response. Okay, now finish these sentences. Sex is sex should be when it comes to openly and honestly communicating my sexual desires to my partner, discussing sex makes me feel when I think about my sexual limitations, when I masturbate, I feel if my primary sexual partner were to rate me as a lover on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd probably get a my heterosexual thoughts and fantasies make me feel my homosexual thoughts and fantasies make me feel when I think about what I do sexually, I feel when I think about my sexual past, I feel someone said that other people, the church, and society inflict their sexual beliefs on you, and you accept them. I think the person that said this is okay. Now the next sentences refer to sexual practices that are not necessarily approved of by society. Some people enhance their lives with exhibitionism, bondage, consensual non-monogamy, group sex, polyfidelity, and other forms of sexual adventure. So again now, finish the sentences. When I think of participating in this kind of sexual activity, I feel when I think about allowing my mate or lover to participate in this kind of sexual adventure, I feel The thought of my mate or lover having an affair makes me feel. When I think about experiencing gay sex, I feel. When I think about experiencing heterosexual intercourse, I feel. The idea of my mate or lover having gay sex makes me feel. The idea of my mate or lover having heterosexual intercourse makes me feel. If I could do anything I wanted sexually without worrying about what anyone else thought, I would like to. If I were to measure the level of my sexual openness on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd have to rate myself as a. If I were to compare how open I am sexually to the quality of my sex life, I would have to conclude. Some people participating in this process don't get enough sex. Others get more than they want. And some are frustrated because of unfulfilled desires. And some are feeling guilty about what they do sexually, or what they've done in the past. Some are afraid to do what they really want to do. Some are shocked by their desires. Some feel unnecessarily guilty. Some need to find love. And some can't reconcile spirituality with sexuality. Whatever your situation, it can be traced back to your beliefs. Beliefs that were programmed as a result of past experiences. Even if an improvement in your sex life depends upon someone else changing, it is your karma, or you wouldn't find yourself in the situation. In other words, there is a karmic belief block that you've set into motion for the learning opportunity it provides. Sometimes these blocks are to balance past deeds, and sometimes they reflect false guilt or false fear karma that is easily overcome once it is recognized.